So today our topic is gut anxiety. So we are actually going to dive in. We're going to talk about causes and triggers. Very interesting. We're going to talk about some common symptoms, and then we're not going to leave you hanging. We will talk about some holistic preventative solutions. So let's just kind of dive in. So as far as anxiety, the first thing that if anybody that is listening, again, whether you're live, whether it's recorded, if you have anxiety, you need to know you're not alone.
You're not alone.
Not alone.
A lot of us out there.
And right now, it is the most common mental health issue in the U.S. and
Very
it's
common.
Prevalent.
Matter of fact, it's so common. There's 40 million people, 40 million adults. That we're not even talking about kids, but 40 million adults that suffer from anxiety of some kind. There are different types. And you may say, well, I have anxiety, and it may look different than the other person that has anxiety. So we all kind of have our own brand of anxiety. We can label it as that, and it might be other things. But that's a lot of people. According to the World Health Organization, also 1 in 3 people suffer from anxiety.
That's a lot.
We were doing in-office lectures, and I remember World Health Organization said by 2030, I believe, depression and anxiety will be the #1 diagnosed condition worldwide.
Wow.
Or disability, causing of disabilities and stuff. It was pretty phenomenal.
Yeah, and we're definitely headed that way.
Yes.
Anxiety was very prevalent before COVID hit, and now due to all these circumstances, it's really wreaked a lot of havoc. Yeah.
Right. Fear can lead to anxiety. So if you drive people into fear, they're going to have anxiety. Even when they shouldn't have any fear, they'll still have anxiety. So they're all connected.
Yeah, it's so true. So you're not alone, and I think that's really an important point that we want you to know. So the first thing we're going to talk about is kind of understanding the causes, the triggers. I really like to use the word triggers. But causes, triggers. So they can be internal and they can be external.
Correct.
Okay, does that make sense to you? We're going to kind of do a deep dive into that. So looking at some of the internal things. Food. Yes, I just said it. If you're eating the wrong foods, the packaged foods, sugar is huge. I literally was on an email with one of our wellness members who has been working with us for a few months, and her anxiety was really high when we first met her, and she got it to a really great level. And she was sharing with me that over the last week, she had been exposed to a lot of different sugar treats, and she had that awareness of, oh my gosh, I was doing really well. I started eating all these foods. I didn't say no to them, and I can feel it in my body.
Right. So it can be internal, external food. Think about it like this, is that I eat something outside, it's external, I eat it, it breaks down, and then it causes me the anxiety when it's internal. Maybe that anxiety is a historical response to that food. It gave me diarrhea, it gave me intestinal dysfunction, it gave me a headache, it gave me heart palpitations. So I've eaten it, it's external, but then internally it causes these effects that give me anxiety.
Right.
Right?
Yeah, and it's so true. Yeah, everything kind of has that internal and external piece to
the
it.
yin and the yang.
Yeah, you think about the external, like environmental pieces, right?
Correct.
You go somewhere, or you're around family, or maybe your work, money, your kids, triggers that anxiety.
Sure.
Now remember, all these different triggers that we're talking about, you can have like all of them, or just a few. So just imagine the more that you have, the more anxiety you have too.
And we might not list something that you have. So diet pills. Okay, so maybe nobody on here is taking diet pills, but if you think about diet pills in general, they got caffeine, they got all kinds of drugs in there to stimulate your metabolism and whatnot. So you can be taking that, and I'm having this anxiety, and you're not making the connection that that's what's causing it. It could be, I take it, and then you develop anxiety when you go to the gym, and you think that it's a body dysmorphia scenario where you're concerned about how you look physically when you walk into the gym. But it's the diet pill, or it's the pre-workout powders. There's a lot of those on the market. Some of them are pumped full of caffeine and whatnot. So we really have to identify what exactly it is.
Right. Yeah, very true. So again, it could be external, and like the doctor said, it starts off external, like food, you put it in your body, and then it's all those underlying issues that it could be as well. It could be hormone imbalances. That's a huge one as well. Negative self-talk. You hear us talking about this all the time, the mindset, but that negative self-talk, we could get ourselves so worked up that now we have anxiety. We're going to talk in a minute or so about what those symptoms look like as well, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So
self-talk is horrible. If self-talk is positive and supportive, like affirmations and gratitude lists, those are all good self-talk. But there's a lot of times we get into this itty shitty bitty committee bad self-talk, negative self-talk, and that really takes us down a road of, it can take us down a road of depression, but it can drive anxiety.
Yeah, that, and really not stopping to do any sort of self-care, and really stopping and taking a few moments to yourself. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in the solution part. But yes, there's a lot of different triggers. And again, we're just, for time's sake, we're just kind of touching on the ones we usually see here in the office, okay?
So when Lori did mention earlier packaged foods, and you're thinking, well, packaged foods, remember they have preservatives, additives, fillers, and a whole bunch of other stuff that you can't pronounce the names of. Those are called disruptogens. They disrupt my body's normal functionality, whether it's hormone production, hormone manipulation, modifications, distribution, uptake, so it can have a dramatic effect. And if those hormones or neurotransmitters, it can really affect my brain. Even though it's going here, it can affect my brain. So packaged foods can have a dramatic effect on our moods and just everything about our emotions and whatnot. So you got to keep that in mind.
Yeah, we really don't give food enough credit for either the damage it does to our body or the healing powers that it can do to our bodies. But it's really, really important.
Healing power of food is amazing.
Yeah, so those are just a few of the causes and triggers. So now we're going to just kind of list some of the common symptoms of anxiety, okay? And now it could be different for everybody, but the most common symptoms, we'll just kind of list them off. Excessive worrying. Oh, been there, done that.
Worry.
Yeah, and that's easy to get caught up in the worrying, which means that we are, if we're anxious and worrying, we're either worrying about the future, worrying about the past, rather than just being present.
The what if. If you're saying what if, you're missing the boat. You got to get rid of that. Get that out of your language. No what ifs.
Yeah.
What if means I have no control.
True.
And that can drive me down the path of anxiety.
Yeah, so the excessive worrying, difficulty sleeping and restlessness, that is a real common symptom as well. Being fatigued during the day, where it can affect your sleep. Concentration issues, that's another one. And what's interesting is we list these common symptoms. If you've listened to our other Facebook Lives, you'll see these symptoms can actually be, contributed to other sorts of hormone imbalances, other sorts of health issues. It just kind of brings me back to that whole thing about how our bodies work together. So fatigue, concentration, sweating and hot flashes. Yes, that could be from anxiety as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And
let's see what else we got here. What I wanted to point out was important to me was feeling of terror or impending doom. If you're watching the news, and I don't care what station it is, there's nothing but fear being pushed on us. Fear all day long. Fear. And then there's the impending doom. I mean, look at, we were driving out and doing some stuff this weekend, and every time I got out of the car to go into a store, I'd say to Lori, do I have to have a mask? Do I not have to mask? I don't want to get caught without a mask. I don't want somebody to go, where's your mask? So I had anxiety over not doing the right thing. Whether it was wear a mask or don't wear a mask.
Right.
You know, you go to Palm Springs, you gotta have a vax passport. You don't go. I mean, it's just really challenging, and there's that feeling of impending doom. What's going to happen?
Yeah, and a lot of people that have been affected by their work, their family, and so that impending doom is really been hard. Shortness of breath is another one. Increased heart rate and palpitations. I think that's a very common one as well. Trembling and shaking. So yes, these could be symptoms of something else, but they could also be symptoms of anxiety.
Absolutely.
And it's very important to acknowledge it and do something about it.
Increased heart rate, pounding of heart, shortness of breath. You may end up in an ER in that scenario, and they may say it's a panic attack.
Right.
Well, panic, anxiety, they are linked.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah, that panic attack. We hear that all the time.
Right.
And like what Dr. Rabi said is just that we have people who end up in the ER and they do so many different tests and they're like, oh, it was just a panic attack. Well, just a panic attack, that's something too.
Yeah.
Yes, it's good it wasn't a heart attack, but this is something too that needs to be addressed. And there are things that you can do about it.
And when you open up the bill from the ER visit that was just a panic attack and it was $12,000, that'll give you anxiety.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, exactly. We should put that as like a little symptom.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Oh,
so true.
I'm having anxiety just thinking about that.
So, and again, the other symptoms, we talked a little bit about hormone imbalance, kind of what came first, the anxiety, the hormone imbalance, they affect each other. So, and there are other symptoms, but these are definitely the most common symptoms that we see in the office that we hear about that we wanted to share. We do have good news because we are going to talk about some holistic solutions. And for those of you on here who have worked with us for a while, I literally have tools available to be preventative every day for anxiety. And if you are in the middle of a panic attack, there are things that you can do. So I'm just going to kind of start sharing some of those. The number one thing, and again, you'll hear us talking about this all the time, is you need to test. You need to do some testing to identify if there is an underlying cause externally with your hormones and other things. So in order to rule that out, because that's a real high percentage, it may not be everything that's affecting the anxiety, but it could be a piece of it.
Absolutely.
It's usually not just one thing. It's usually, figuring out the puzzle, identifying those triggers and seeing, okay, I have a hormone imbalance. That's causing it. My cortisol levels are off. Plus, I'm having a lot of, stress in my office. So it's identifying all the little triggers, creating like your little anxiety, package and realizing, okay, this is what's giving me anxiety. Let's find solutions for it. Okay. So again, testing, and we do that testing here. Let's find out the underlying causes. The testing, I already talked about the triggers. We need to identify and work on eliminating those triggers.
Remove the triggers. Remove the triggers. Just like what we do when we talk about autoimmune conditions, which both of us are autoimmune. So we've done over time in full remission is identified what was the triggers that were stimulating our autoimmune to attack our tissues. So we've identified them, eliminated them, and then we've put our immune system into remission, or our autoimmune condition is in remission. Our immune system is supercharged because we follow our protocols.
Yes,
and
we
flu
do.
season's coming, so you should follow our protocols. I've missed one day of work in 32 years. So I think I shared that last time.
Yeah.
But yes, those protocols.
Story.
For me, one of my big things is to make sure I do my meditation and my self-care in the morning. That helps me with my anxiety. And if I get to noon and I start to feel it percolating, well, then I'll do it again. No one says you can't do it more than once.
Yes, the breath work. I'm always teaching the breath work, the 4-7-8 breath work, where you breathe in for the count of 4, you hold for the count of 7, and you slowly breathe out to the count of 8. It is that slow breathing out to the count of 8 that really calms things down. It literally calms your nervous system. So I like to start the day, and this is what I recommend to everyone that works with me. And if there's anybody on here that has done this and is working with us, thank you, Rose. This is a lifesaver. Thank you so much for sharing that. Give us some thumbs up because it really is a lifesaver. I appreciate you sharing that. We do it every single morning. And the idea is I don't just wait until I'm anxious. I start my day with it because then I'm just calmer. So everything that happens during the day, because there's going to be a lot coming at me, I'm just calmer. And then I make sure to do it at lunchtime, and then I'll do it at the end of the day. So this is preventative, and I really, really suggest it. But you can also, if you are in the middle of a panic attack, you can go right into that breath work. And you want to do it 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 times in a row until you start to feel yourself calm down.
Yes.
Thank you, Rose, for sharing that. Yeah, your heart rate automatically drops.
Yes.
It's pretty
amazing.
It really is. And I had a lot of skeptics that were like, oh, that's not going to work. And I'm like, try it. What have you got to lose?
Right.
Right? So that's a huge one, So, and that ends up being a temporary fix because, yes, that'll get you through the, that actual attack. Now we really need to identify the triggers. We need to do the testing to see what else is going on. But it is a wonderful daily preventative piece. Just like that, it's part of our morning self-care routine.
We do a morning self-care routine every day.
And that's
Saturday,
our lifesaver.
Sunday, it doesn't matter. It's just, that's what we do. And it helps us start off in a balanced, calm, metabolically balanced, centered, zen if you want, place. Yes. I'd rather start from there than a heightened state of anxiety. I got to go to work. And then all of a sudden there's a pile on my desk and I go, holy smokes, now I'm through the roof.
Yeah, and it
wonderful.
happens fast. Yeah, so that's why having this morning routine is super important. So we've talked a little bit about breath work, meditation. The other piece too is to not isolate. We're giving you this information so that you're not alone. 1 in 3 is what the doctor said. So what does that mean? If you think about your group of friends, your family, you could just look around the room and that there's a bunch of people also experiencing it. So you're not alone. And so you want to stay connected. You don't want to isolate. And it's also nice, you can look for support. Like in our wellness program, we offer the support to our wellness members, but also having an accountability partner.
Right. So, I've done lots of different group work. And when you're in a group scenario doing group work, you look around your group and you realize, I'm not the only one that's experiencing this. And it's like someone's lifted the weight off of your shoulders. So I really implore you guys to acknowledge the fact that you're not alone. This is very, very common, number one. And number two, the accountability partner or accountability support person, it's just somebody else, maybe their close friend, a family member, or somebody that you're just really close with that's going through or have gone through what you're going through, and that you can contact. I have a number of men that I can just text immediately. They'll do everything they can to get back to me, and we just go back and forth, and it just really, really helps me stay in a grounded state on a regular basis.
Yeah,
it's fantastic.
Very important, because when we're alone too much and we isolate, then we get really spun out in our head, right? We go to shame, we go to embarrassment, we make up all these scenarios in our head. That's another reason why we wanted to just come out and talk about this, you know? Because a lot of people don't talk about it. And like we're both sharing that we've had our bouts of anxiety. I have to say that when I think the first month of COVID, and we own our small business, obviously, there were so many unknowns. We're going to have to close. We're open. It was one of the first times in the middle of the day I felt a little something in my chest. I was like, okay. Wow. I'm like, I'm going to stop what I'm doing, and I practice what I preach for all of you who know me. And I went right into the breath work. The other thing I did too was I removed myself from the environment. Right. And I talk a lot about this in a previous Facebook live that we did about, taking care of yourself, having that awareness, stop and do something different. So that's exactly what I did. I had awareness that something was tightening in my body. I wasn't sure it was going on, but I'm going to stop. I'm going to have that awareness. I did my breath work. I left the office. I went outside, got some fresh air, and I felt better. But I acknowledged what was going on. I didn't just let it continue. I didn't keep, sitting in the situation. Right. And then I also acknowledged how much it was actually affecting me. And then I went and talked about it with my support groups and other business owners and who were also in fear. So it happens to all of us.
All of us.
The key is if you don't do anything about it, that's when it can really create a lot of issues. Music and taking a drive helps me. Oh, I love that. Oh, I love the music piece.
Yes,
and
music is incredibly therapeutic.
Yeah.
It really, really is. Sound therapy. It's just incredible what it can do for your brain, for your psyche, everything. It's absolutely amazing.
It's amazing. Now we know Rose is that lady who's got her music blasted and she is singing as loud as she can while she's driving. I love that. I love driving too. I could drive for hours and hours, but with the price of gas these days, I'm not doing that. But I do love the music. I love everything. Thank you for sharing that, Rose, too. So there are things that you can do about it. That's the key. We always want to leave you with hope of knowing that there is 99%, there's a holistic solution. You just have to reach out, ask for some help, acknowledge something's going on and you don't feel right and you need some help. Rose is rocking out to the 80s. Love that. That's great. So that's a little bit that we wanted to share about anxiety. It's very common. Please share this video with your friends and family because we know that they are suffering also. Some people may be suffering quietly, in silence, and there's no reason to doing that because that added amount of shame just makes things worse and can create other health issues.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely. Yeah.
So that's what I wanted to share. I hope you guys learned a little something. I so appreciate everyone who joined us live. And for those that are watching this recorded, did you have anything else that we didn't touch on?
Just like she said, she goes, this is really, really important. So not only for yourself, but for close family members or close friends, that if something seems off, you have to get them to express and open up and use words like, how does it make you feel? And I know, guys, look, I'm 62 years old. I wasn't raised to express my feelings. I was raised to stuff them deep down inside. But we've got to be able to express. And just by expressing can reduce and minimize anxiety and stress. So it's really important. You may help someone in a way that you never thought you could do before by just being there for them.
Oh, I
hearing
love
them. Just listen. Listen can be the most therapeutic thing that the other person, could receive in many, 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 many years.
I love that. And I'm glad that you brought that up because when we are kind of stuck in our stuff and we all get there, when we take a moment and step away from that and reach out to someone else, and like the doctor says, and you're helping them, listening to them, it's therapeutic for you as well. So those things are really important. Yeah, and it's things, like we said, that we do personally that we recommend to people that are working with us. So yes, anxiety, there are things that we can do about it, but we've got to acknowledge, we've got to identify the triggers. We need to do something different about it. So very cool. Next week we are coming live from our kitchen. I'm super excited. We are in fall, so we are going to be talking about teas, spices, veggies, kind of a little about everything about fall in the kitchen and the importance of eating seasonally and all that. So if you have any questions or anything that you'd like us to talk about, please email, you can call us, message us. We are here to help give you hope and know that there are usually, like I said, holistic solutions to lots of different issues. So thanks for joining us.
Thanks for joining us, guys.
All right, have a fantastic evening, and we look forward to seeing you next week.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.